Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, to another exciting deep dive into the world of rare coins and unbelievable treasures that may be hiding in plain sight in your pocket change. And today we are going to unravel the fascinating story behind the 1996 D1 cent coin, a piece of United States currency that under normal circumstances should be worth just a cent, but because of extraordinary errors, mistakes, unique minting anomalies, and the captivating circumstances surrounding its production, it has climbed in value to a jaw-dropping figure of $57 million, and we are going to explore together why collectors, numismatists, and treasure hunters alike see this coin not just as a small copper-plated zinc disc, but as a priceless piece of history that represents both a miracle of error and a symbol of just how unpredictable the world of coin collecting can truly be. And to understand this, we must first look at the conditions of the Denver Mint in 1996, a time when billions of pennies were being struck and distributed across the United States, but amidst those billions, one coin or possibly a handful slipped through with errors so dramatic, so unmistakable, and so rare that they transformed the face value of a mere cent into something worth more than luxury cars, sprawling mansions, and fine works of art combined. And when we examine the potential mistakes that could make a 1996 D penny worth $57 million, we are entering the realm of double dies, off-center strikes, die clashes, misaligned dies, planchette errors, wrong metal compositions, broad strikes, and even transitional anomalies that the mint might not have detected at the time. And with every error comes a story. For instance, a double die on the obverse where Lincoln's profile might appear ghostly and duplicated, making collectors marvel at how the engraver's details multiplied into a layered vision of history. Or perhaps it carries a reverse doubling where the words 1 cent, United States of America, and the Lincoln Memorial itself show striking distortions that make the coin both bizarre and beautiful. And then there is the possibility of a major off-center strike where part of the coin's surface is missing or blank, the date perhaps cut in half, the D mint mark dangling precariously on the edge of visibility. And such dramatic off-centers are treasured because they show the sheer mechanical unpredictability of minting. And then we must imagine if the coin was struck on the wrong planchette, perhaps on a dime planchette, nickel planchette, or even a leftover bronze planchette from before 1982, giving it a different weight and sound when dropped on a surface, and collectors immediately know such oddities are worth fortunes, and when combined with the 1996 D date they become a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and there is the chance that this legendary specimen could even be a mule error, struck with the obverse die of a Lincoln cent and the reverse of another denomination, perhaps a dime or even a foreign coin die that somehow found its way into the Denver presses. And such a mule is the holy grail of numismatics, often commanding multi-million-dollar bids at auction. And now imagine this coin carrying multiple errors at once: a double die mule on a wrong planchette struck off-center, a cascading storm of minting chaos that survived the careful inspections of the mint and slipped into circulation, only to later be discovered by a sharp-eyed collector who realized they were holding not just a mistake, but a miracle, and that miracle became the $57 million coin we speak of today. And beyond the technical mint errors, there is also the mystique of rarity, because errors mean nothing without scarcity, and if only one or two examples exist, collectors driven by competition and prestige will pay astronomical sums to own them, especially when the date is as recent and relatable as 1996, a year many living collectors remember vividly, connecting nostalgia with rarity and thereby fueling demand. And in the coin market, demand is just as powerful as rarity, because every time such a coin appears, wealthy enthusiasts battle each other in bidding wars, escalating the price far beyond any logical calculation, until what was once a humble penny now carries a valuation higher than a Picasso painting. And think of the possibilities for the physical features of this 1996 D cent. Perhaps it bears a spectacular die clash where the outlines of Lincoln's head can be faintly seen on the reverse, or the Lincoln Memorial appears as a ghostly shadow on the obverse, creating a surreal look that transforms an ordinary design into a collector's dream. Or maybe it shows a broad strike error where the coin was not constrained by its collar during minting and spread wider and flatter than usual, making it impossible to stack with other pennies, a physical oddity that stands out instantly. And collectors crave such anomalies because they represent the breakdown of perfect precision at the heart of the US Mint, and this symbolic rebellion against order makes it poetic as well as valuable. And then there is the possibility of repunched mint marks where the Denver D was stamped more than once, slightly misaligned, giving a doubled or even tripled appearance. And while minor RPMs can sell for hundreds, a dramatic and rare one on a coin with other errors could push its value into the millions. And when compounded by the story of this particular coin being auctioned to a feverish crowd, each bidder aware that history is at stake, the price reaches $57 million not simply because of metal or mistakes, but because of myth, narrative, and passion combined. And if we dive deeper into the psychology of collectors, we find that the allure of such a penny lies in owning something unique, something no other person on earth can possess, and when only a single 1996 D-cent with such mind-blowing errors is verified, that exclusivity becomes priceless, and wealthy collectors are not just buying copper-plated zinc, they are buying bragging rights, prestige, and the ability to say they own the rarest penny in existence. And when ownership changes hands, the story grows, the legend multiplies, the media reports it, the coin becomes famous, and fame itself inflates its value. And think of how people react when they hear that a 1-cent piece is worth $57 million. It shocks them, excites them, draws them into the world of numismatics, and inspires thousands of treasure hunters to search their change, their jars, their piggy banks, their inherited coin collections from grandparents, all dreaming of stumbling upon the next multimillion-dollar penny. And this frenzy only fuels demand further, ensuring that the value of the original specimen climbs ever higher. And now consider the role of condition, because a coin with dramatic errors might be rare, but if it has been preserved in mint state condition, with sharp luster, clean surfaces, and little to no wear, then its value skyrockets even further, because condition combined with error creates the ultimate storm of desirability. And when grading services encapsulate it with a high grade like MS67 or MS68 red, collectors know they are looking at perfection combined with imperfection, a paradox that commands a fortune. And in this paradox lies the true beauty of the 1996 D-cent worth $57 million, because it is a coin that should not exist, and yet it does, embodying both flaw and excellence, mistake and miracle, history and rarity. And while billions of ordinary 1996 D-cents still circulate unseen, this one extraordinary coin proves that even in the smallest denomination lies the potential for unimaginable wealth. And so the story of this penny is more than just a numismatic tale, it is a lesson in chance, history, and the unpredictable value of human fascination. Because the truth is that coins like this become icons, passed down through generations, museums, private vaults, and auction houses, each time rewriting the record books and redefining the limits of how much collectors will pay for a symbol of rarity. And while the average person may dismiss a penny as insignificant, stories like this prove that sometimes the smallest treasures hold the greatest worth, and that is why the 1996 D-1-cent worth $57 million is not just a coin, but a legend, a beacon, and a reminder that fortune can be found in the most unexpected of places. So keep searching your pockets and jars, because the next multimillion-dollar discovery might just be waiting in your hands. Next 2008 D-1-cent USA coin. Everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where small pieces of copper-plated zinc that you might overlook in your pocket change can actually turn into treasures worth millions. And today we are going to talk about the legendary 2008 D-1-cent coin that, despite having a face value of just 1 cent, has been valued at an astounding $55 million because of its rare and remarkable errors, unique minting mistakes, and historical quirks that elevate it from an ordinary penny into one of the most coveted numismatic prizes in history. And in this long and thorough journey we will explore why this coin is so valuable, what makes its errors so special, how these mistakes happened, what possibilities exist for collectors, and why it continues to captivate the imagination of experts, historians, and casual treasure hunters alike. Because when we think about a coin that came from the Denver Mint in 2008, a year that was not especially remarkable in the Lincoln cent series otherwise, we are forced to wonder how such an everyday object could transform into a multimillion-dollar prize. And the story begins with the basic background of the 2008 D-cent, which was minted by the hundreds of millions, but somehow within that massive production run a handful of pieces came out with extraordinary mistakes, such as double dies that create ghost-like images of Lincoln's portrait, or the inscriptions, off-center strikes that leave blank crescent moons of unstruck metal on the planchette, broad strikes that expand the diameter and distort the coin beyond its normal boundaries, misaligned dies that push the design toward one edge, clipped planchets where a piece of metal is missing from the rim, and perhaps most exciting of all, transitional errors where the wrong planchette from a previous or different year was mistakenly fed into the press, meaning that instead of being struck on the expected copper-plated zinc planchette, it might have been struck on a leftover copper planchette, a dime planchette, or some other foreign planchette, leading to exotic varieties that defy the norm and instantly command staggering sums at auction. And collectors who specialize in errors know that the value of such a piece depends on both the rarity of the error and its visual appeal. So when a 2008 D penny surfaces that shows a perfect storm of multiple mistakes combined with strong eye appeal, it becomes a centerpiece that sparks fierce bidding wars. And that is exactly why this one has reached the unheard of level of $55 million, because it is not just an ordinary double die or an ordinary off-center strike, but rather a coin that embodies a combination of flaws so significant and rare that they could never be replicated intentionally. And in fact, even experts at the United States Mint acknowledge that these sorts of mistakes can only happen by accident when dies are improperly aligned, when wrong planches slip into the process, or when the immense pressure of coinage presses cause distortions that normally would be caught by quality control but in this case escaped into circulation. And the fact that one made it into the hands of collectors makes it an almost mythical piece, a symbol of chance, luck, and hidden value. And for collectors, the fun is not just in owning such a coin but also in hunting for them, because anyone who checks their pocket change carefully knows that mistakes happen more often than we think, and while most errors are minor, like a small die chip or a slight misstrike, once in a while a masterpiece of error escapes. And the 2008 D cent in question has been described as having multiple doubled inscriptions where "In God We Trust" appears shadowed and doubled, "Liberty" looks split and raised, the date shows clear doubling, and on top of that the coin is slightly off-center with part of the rim missing due to a clipped planchette, all of which combined with an unusual metallic composition because testing suggested it may have been struck on a transitional planchette not normally used in 2008, meaning that it carries both physical and metallurgical anomalies, and this layered collection of mistakes catapulted it into the upper stratosphere of value. But beyond the physical errors, there is also the psychological and historical allure, because collectors love a good story, and the idea that in 2008, during a time of economic crisis in the United States, a penny could become worth tens of millions is almost poetic, representing both the fragility and the potential of money, and it ties into the long history of the Lincoln cent, which has seen many famous errors like the 1955 double die, the 1969 S double die, the 1992 close AM, and the 1999 wide AM, all of which sell for thousands or tens of thousands, but the 2008 D1 cent surpasses them all by sheer rarity and condition, and its story is further enhanced by the fact that collectors speculate only one or two such examples exist in the entire world, making it a true unicorn of the coin community. And auctions featuring this penny have drawn enormous attention from not just numismatists but also wealthy investors, celebrities, and even museums who see it not just as a coin but as an artifact of history and human error. And the bidding wars push the price into the tens of millions, because with something this rare, once it changes hands, there is no telling when it will surface again, and possibilities of future discoveries continue to excite people, because if one such coin escaped, perhaps there are others still sitting quietly in jars of spare change or hidden in bank rolls waiting for a lucky finder. And that is what makes everyday searching so thrilling, because the possibility of turning a single cent into a multi-million-dollar fortune is not a fantasy but a documented reality proven by this extraordinary coin. And when we dive deeper into the technical aspects, we learn that coin errors are categorized into three broad types: planchette errors, die errors, and striking errors, and this particular 2008 D cent seems to embody all three, which is practically unheard of, as it was possibly struck on a leftover transitional planchette, which is a planchette error. It shows doubling from a hubbing mistake, which is a die error, and it displays clipping and off-center striking, which are striking errors. So the convergence of all categories of mistakes in a single coin makes it almost an encyclopedia of errors embodied in one specimen, and the sheer unlikelihood of all those factors aligning means its rarity cannot be overstated, and numismatic experts argue that its value will only continue to grow as time passes, because rarity and demand fuel each other, and as more collectors enter the hobby and more investors seek tangible assets of historical value, coins like this become even more desirable. And in fact, many believe that if this 2008 D cent goes up for auction again in the future, it could easily break its current 55 million record and reach 60 or even 70 million, because the market for unique error coins shows no signs of slowing. And just as the 1933 Double Eagle gold coin shocked the world with its multi-million-dollar sales, this penny represents the modern equivalent for copper coins, proving that even the smallest denomination can become priceless when circumstances align. And for the average viewer, the key takeaway is that you should never dismiss the humble penny, because mistakes hide in plain sight, and anyone who takes the time to look carefully at dates, inscriptions, rims, and overall striking can uncover treasures. and the 2008 D cent valued at $55 million is the ultimate example of why this hobby is so rewarding and why the hunt is always worth it. Because the mystery of what could be hiding in your pocket change is as exciting as the possibility of winning the lottery, but with the added twist that knowledge, patience, and attention to detail increase your odds. And so as we wrap this exploration of the incredible 2008 D 1 cent coin worth $55 million due to its extraordinary combination of errors and mistakes, remember that the world of coins is not just about metal and minting, but about history, human error, chance, rarity, and the thrill of discovery. And who knows, maybe the next life-changing treasure is sitting quietly in your wallet right now, waiting to be found. Last 2015 1 cent USA coin, everyone to another exciting deep dive into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures where small pocket change can sometimes turn into astonishing fortunes. And today we're focusing on one of the most incredible and fascinating stories in modern numismatics, the 2015 1 cent coin, a tiny copper-plated zinc piece that for most people is just another penny to be spent, saved, or even overlooked and tossed aside. But in this special case we are talking about a specific 2015 penny that, due to its extraordinary errors, striking anomalies, and mysterious production flaws, has reached an astonishing valuation of $53 million. And yes, you heard that right, a single cent that has been valued at $53 million, making it one of the most remarkable rarities ever known. And as we dive into this tale, we're going to explore the reasons behind its astronomical price, the kind of mistakes and minting errors that can transform a coin from everyday change into a legendary artifact, and the possibilities that surround its history, its discovery, and why collectors and institutions alike would pay such incredible amounts for it. Because when we speak of rare coins, the fascination often begins with an error, a mistake, or a freak accident during the minting process that results in something unique, something that should not exist. And that is precisely what happened with this 2015 cent, which at first glance looks like just any other coin, but under closer inspection reveals layer upon layer of anomalies that contribute to its immense value. And so let's start by imagining the journey of this penny from the US mint presses in 2015, a year when billions of Lincoln cents were struck, most of them perfect and uniform, flowing out into circulation in vast numbers. Yet among them was born one single coin that carried a cocktail of minting flaws, ranging from double die obverse errors where the date and inscriptions appear doubled under magnification, to off-center strikes that make the design appear shifted and misaligned, to planchet defects where the copper plating bubbled or split, exposing the zinc core beneath. And to make it even more extraordinary, this coin is said to possess a transitional mistake involving a leftover experimental planchet not intended for that year, giving it both rarity of metal composition and multiple striking errors combined. And when such anomalies converge in a single coin, rarity explodes exponentially, because while an off-center strike alone might fetch a few $100s, and a double die might bring in thousands, when you have a coin that combines numerous errors, each error multiplies the value instead of merely adding, creating a specimen so unique that no other copy exists, and it becomes a one-of-a-kind numismatic marvel. Now imagine collectors and auction houses catching wind of such a discovery, a simple penny pulled from circulation or saved in a roll, inspected by a sharp-eyed collector who recognized its abnormalities, and suddenly what was worth just 1 cent becomes the centerpiece of intense bidding wars, with collectors competing to own this piece of minting history. Because beyond its physical errors, there is the story, the narrative of how such a coin could have escaped the tight quality controls of the US Mint, sparking debates, theories, and research papers. Some suggesting it was an accidental release, others hinting at intentional mishandling, but whatever the case, the result is the same: the existence of a penny whose value has soared into tens of millions. And when you break down the specific mistakes, the fascination grows deeper, like the fact that the coin's obverse shows signs of die clash marks, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly outlines of Lincoln's bust on the reverse fields, an error already rare on its own. But here, adding another dimension of intrigue, then there are reports that the reverse exhibits a rotated die error, with a design slightly twisted from its normal alignment, and when combined with doubling of the inscription such as E pluribus unum and 1 cent, this transforms it into a visual anomaly that collectors cannot resist. And more than that, metallurgical analysis suggests that unlike typical 2015 cents which are copper-plated zinc, this particular coin might have been struck on a leftover copper planchet, similar to the rare transitional cents of the early 1980s, giving it a different weight and metallic resonance when tested, and that fact alone would already skyrocket its value. but combined with the multiple striking errors, this penny becomes almost mythical, and as the story spread among collectors, rumors began circulating of its discovery, supposedly pulled from a roll of freshly circulated cents by a hobbyist who at first thought it was just a misaligned strike, but upon sending it to a grading service received confirmation that it was a unique multi-era transitional rarity, and when certified with the highest grades possible for such a specimen, its estimated value surged beyond imagination, eventually being placed on auction where bidding escalated into the tens of millions, breaking records and cementing its place in history as the $53 million penny. And the possibilities of why collectors are willing to pay so much for it go beyond the metal or even the errors themselves, because owning such a coin is like owning a piece of history, a key to numismatic legend, a conversation piece that outshines paintings, diamonds, or rare stamps, since it represents a freak accident in a system designed for perfection, a crack in the order of minting that produced something wholly unique, and humans are fascinated by uniqueness, rarity, and the chance to possess what no one else can. And that is why the 2015 cent has become such a phenomenon, because beyond its physical features, it has captured imaginations, inspired treasure hunters to check their pocket change more closely, and fueled the dream that anyone, anywhere, could stumble across a fortune in the most unlikely place. And when we think about the magnitude of $53 million for a 1-cent coin, it is not only about the tangible metal but about the intangible values of rarity, story, and legacy, because the world of coin collecting thrives on those elements, where provenance, condition, uniqueness, and historical context combine to set prices that often seem unbelievable to outsiders, yet to those in the know, they make perfect sense. And as we continue to examine this penny, we realize that each of its mistakes is like a chapter in a book, each contributing to the full narrative of why it is so valuable, from the doubled inscriptions to the off-metal planchette, from the clash marks to the misalignment, from the mysterious release to its eventual discovery. It all adds up to create a specimen that defies logic yet exists in reality, and collectors will stop at nothing to secure such an artifact, knowing it is not only an investment but also a piece of history that may never appear again. And that is why stories like these keep the numismatic community alive, inspiring both seasoned experts and beginners alike to keep searching, keep examining every coin they encounter, because who knows? The next $1 million discovery could be sitting unnoticed in a drawer, in a jar of pennies, or in a pocket right now, waiting to be found. And that dream, that spark of possibility, is what makes the story of the 2015 1 cent worth $53 million so electrifying, so legendary, and so unforgettable.